Hello everyone, Max here with Fiction Rant to bring you another response video, but this time I'm going to give a little bit more of an intro and an apology. Also, I have links to my Ko-fi account and merch store in the description if you'd like to support the channel. First, the apology. Despite the fact that I have a very prominent TARDIS in my thumbnail, as you can see, I rarely cover Doctor Who stuff on the channel. Why is that? Well, in short, because when I do a matchup, I want things to at least be conceivably a fair fight. Even after doing some digging, it turns out to not actually be a fair fight. I want it to at least look like one initially. Japanese samurai versus European medieval knights is a great example. Both are professional soldiers, both have legendary arms and armor, but when you actually start digging into it and looking closer, the training on both sides would be roughly equivalent. They're both professional soldiers, while the armor on the knight side would be vastly superior since they had easy access to high-quality metals, unlike the samurai, who had to make most of their armor out of wood and bamboo with a bit of chainmail here and there. Also, the weapons the knight had access to were a wide variety of things that were optimized for countering specific kinds of defenses. The various kinds of katana, as awesome as they are, were specialized for cutting and would probably just break in half if they actually struck a knight in full plate. That's an interesting comparison, and the debate will go on, even though I think the answer is pretty straightforward, but people will continue arguing about it. What isn't interesting is the full might of the modern US military versus the ancient Sumerians. Nobody thinks that a bunch of dudes with wood spears and copper swords would threaten F-22s. With Doctor Who, the power levels of many of the recurring factions we see are totally absurd, but it's easy to think that they're no trouble because the Doctor handles them just fine encounter after encounter. This is ignoring the fact that the Doctor has centuries of experience, vast meta-knowledge about his opponents, is an uber genius, and flies around in a pocket universe that can take him literally anywhere in time and space. Matching against that kind of thing is really hard. So, when a commenter pointed me towards this matchup of the Daleks versus the Galactic Empire by the channel Star Wars Facts and Theories, I just had to do a response video. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is quite the intro. Ooh, swirly.
Hello there, everyone. I've been considering doing a new Versus series on my channel for quite a while, and as I was considering what armies I would pit against each other, I decided on my two favorite sci-fi universes, Star Wars and Doctor Who. Specifically, cool. We are going to look at the Galactic Empire versus the Daleks. I hope you all enjoy this matchup, but please keep in mind that I'm comparing two different universes that I love, so I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. If you have any ideas for future matchups, please post them in the comments below.
So I'm glad that he's going to try to be unbiased, but in my experience, especially with a channel that's literally named Star Wars, insert stuff here, that's generally the bias comes from just lack of research. Like they'll have really well, if you take any channel that's named after a particular IP, they're going to have researched that particular IP really, really well. And then if they match against anything else, maybe not so much. I run afoul of this all the time myself. I've done matchups of like Protoss versus Eldar. My knowledge on both StarCraft and 40K is not nearly as good as my knowledge on Star Trek and Star Wars. So my matchups there were, the comment section helped me out a lot trying to get my facts straight. So yeah, we'll see how well he does in terms of actually being unbiased. I don't think that it'll be intentional if he does end up with some gaps, but I'm expecting gaps.
Enough said, let's begin. I'll give a brief overview for both armies in just a second. For this battle, we will look at the Galactic Empire as it existed around the time of Empire Strikes Back. And to make things interesting, we will say that the rebellion does not exist during this battle. Since the Empire controls almost an entire galaxy, I decided to go big on the Daleks part as well.
So it's actually, I really appreciate that he is not including the rebellion, because anytime that you're like, okay, this faction gets to be against all their normal enemies plus this additional one, it ends up not being fair because, like, if they're barely handling what they already are trying to deal with, then you tack on something else, of course they're going to be having problems. Just making sure I'm actually recording there. So yeah, Empire not having to deal with the rebels, Daleks not having to deal with the Time Lords, that's a big deal to set that up early.
They will be using the largest Dalek fleet ever assembled, which they used during the last day of the Time War during the invasion of Gallifrey. This fleet consisted of 10 million Dalek saucer ships, along with the Dalek Emperor's personal flagship.
Okay, so we've already got one issue. He just said he started out by saying we're comparing the Daleks versus the Galactic Empire, and then now he has managed to pivot into the entire Galactic Empire versus one Dalek fleet. Those are not the same thing, but I understand why he's doing it. It's a very quantifiable fleet, but that's also not what he said he was going to do. Also, 10 million ships is plenty.
Let's now get a basic understanding of both armies. This will be brief, and if you want more information, feel free to check the description, where I have put several links to websites that might be of use to you all. The Empire at this point was spread throughout most of the known Star Wars galaxy. The Empire had thousands of Star Destroyers.
By thousands, he means 25,000, at least according to sources I've found. And that includes Imperial 1s, Imperial 2s, Interdictors, everything. Those are all Star Destroyers. So that total encompasses that. They also had some number of Super Star Destroyers, not many, like 5 or something like that. Not many at all. Certainly not anything like 100 or something like that.
Many Super Star Destroyers, super weapons.
So yeah, by many he means like 5.
Weapons, force-enhanced individuals.
Hang on. He just said they have super weapons. This is Empire Strikes Back era. No, they don't have any super weapons. Those are blown up or under construction. The first Death Star was blown up in A New Hope, and the second Death Star wasn't online until Return of the Jedi, which takes place a couple years after Empire. No super weapons, sorry. World Devastators weren't online yet. Sun Crusher wasn't online yet. Starkiller Base is the First Order. That was another 30 years down the road. So, yeah, no super weapons, sorry.
Along with possibly trillions of soldiers.
Oh, yes, and the Force-sensitive individuals. Yes, there were Inquisitors along with Vader and Palpatine, but at least as of Return of the Jedi, there was only like 3 Inquisitors left, maybe. They're at least unaccounted for, and the rest have all been killed. So, yes, there are Force users, but when you're talking about trillions of troops and 10 million Dalek saucer ships and stuff, 5 to 7 Force users are not going to make a big difference.
Not to mention TIE fighters and walkers. Now you might think that thousands of Star Destroyers versus millions of Dalek ships doesn't sound fair, but as far as I can tell, and please take this with a grain of salt, as I might be mistaken, but it appears that one Star Destroyer is about the size of 2 or 3 Dalek ships.
So? In the words of Yoda, size matters not. That's like saying that an M1 Abrams tank, which is essentially impervious to all but the most specialized anti-tank weaponry, it would lose to a mouse tank from World War II because the mouse tank is significantly bigger. That's an absurd argument. You might as well also say that, a couple dudes in a dinghy with a RPG would lose against a clipper ship because it's way smaller. No, if you land the RPG, it's over. Sorry.
Not counting the Dalek Emperor's command ship. This definitely evens the playing field. The Daleks, if you don't know, were a race that due to a nuclear war on their home planet became terribly disfigured. A man known as Davros created suits that the Daleks could wear that kept them alive.
So, most of that is not true. History lesson. So there was this centuries-long war on Skaro between the Khaleds and the Thals. The war had gone on so long that they were starting to use older and older technology, because like you'd find muskets right next to laser weapons just because they used up all their more advanced stuff, so they were just grabbing what they could. There was also nuclear, atomics being used. So there was some mutation going on, but basically everybody still looked like humans. Davros went ahead and intentionally mutated some Kala DNA to make the first Daleks, and genetically engineered them to be hyper geniuses, to be functionally immortal, to be basically slaves to logic, to be incredibly motivated by hate. I think that their weapons won't even work unless they're like actively hating people. So yeah, they're these squid-like creatures that are actually perfectly fine outside their suits. They don't rely on their suits for survival. There's just the suits turn them into Superman. And those suits are freaking awesome. So, yeah, I don't know where he got his information about, these horrible, diseased creatures that are confined to their suits for survival. Yeah, none of that is true.
The Daleks have removed all feelings except for hatred, and they consider themselves to be the purest of all races. They believe it is their job to eradicate all life other than their own.
True.
Each Dalek is extremely intelligent, has hovering and shield.
Okay, I want to clarify the extremely intelligent thing. In the first episode of New Who that introduces the Daleks, called Dalek, one of them downloads the internet and understands it. So they're not just intelligent, they're insanely intelligent.
Technologies in their armor, plus they have an extremely powerful laser-like weapon. Their ships also have shielding and are equipped with projectile missiles and particle beam turrets.
So he's mentioning that they have weapons. He's not mentioning what they can do. During the Time War, they were fighting the Time Lords, who, I believe that the Time Lords are responsible for for creating the concept of linear time. That's why they're the Time Lords. They have things like the TARDISes are basically contained universes that travel through space and time. They created a weapon, this legendary weapon called the DMAT gun, which could retroactively erase things from time and force the timeline to basically adjust to accommodate the fact that something never existed. So like if you were to use the DMAT gun on Coruscant, then the Empire would retroactively never exist, the Republic would retroactively never exist, and everything would just have to adjust. It'd be a huge mess. Dalek weapons are supposed to be able to take on those TARDISes that are actually battle TARDISes that are customized for combat. So like even when the original series came out of Doctor Who back in the 60s or whatever, the TARDIS was outdated then. So if you've seen any Doctor Who and you've seen the amazing stuff that his TARDIS can do, upgrade that a few tiers and then specialize one for combat, so you have a weaponized universe that is flying around, and the Dalek weapons can destroy those. They're scary.
Each Dalek ship could carry up to 2,000 Dalek warriors. Now that we have a basic understanding of both armies, I'm going to set a few ground rules. Neither empire can use super weapons.
Well, it's not much of a concession from Star Wars. They don't have any at this time period. But that does mean that Daleks don't get their nastier tricks, which would basically just win the war in one effort. So for the sake of keeping things interesting, fair enough.
Weapons such as the Death Star and the Daleks' Universe Killer would...
Yeah, so the Universe Killer, that's actually the reality bomb. Basically what it would do is link up with every alternate universe and destroy literally everything non-Dalek in every universe. That's the level. We're not talking taking out a planet here. We're talking about destroying literally everything not Dalek. So not only is it incredibly destructive, but it's also selectively destructive. That's the level of insanity we're talking about here.
Drastically affect the outcome of this battle. I am giving the Galactic Empire any Force-enhanced individuals they have at their disposal.
All 5
The
of
two
them.
most important, of course, would be Darth Vader and the Emperor. We will be assuming that Dalek weapons can penetrate Star Destroyer shields and vice versa.
So for conflicts, it's important to actually get a baseline idea of what the weapons are actually capable of. So I understand him saying that Imperial weapons would work against Dalek ships. That's probably an absurd assumption to make. Based on the stuff that the Daleks have fought, Time Lords being chief among them, highly doubtful that Star Destroyers would threaten Dalek ships at all.
And neither army has faced each other before.
No
So
meta-knowledge.
without
Let's
further
go.
ado, let us begin the war between the Galactic Empire and the Dalek Empire. To begin, we will assume that the Daleks have opened a rift to a new parallel universe. They arrive in either wild space or the unknown regions. They find a freighter or other craft and learn about the Galactic Empire, and immediately the Dalek Emperor orders his troops to prepare for all-out war.
Seems a bit redundant since Daleks will basically just exterminate. Like, that's literally their catchphrase, is exterminate. They'll just do that regardless. No real need to declare war. Plus, if they don't consider somebody an actual threat, then it's not a war in their mind. It's pest control.
The Daleks spread their massive fleet around the Outer Rim and begin to destroy planets such as Endor, Tatooine, etc.
They probably wouldn't actually destroy the planets. They'd just either wipe out or enslave all the life on them. Planets mean resources, and resources are valuable. Daleks are not wasteful, generally. Spiteful, but not wasteful.
With ease. In Doctor Who episodes, such as The Parting of the Ways, we see how much damage a single Dalek fleet can do to a planet. Their weapons can even reshape continents.
Yes.
Palpatine at this point has probably sensed that something is wrong and has begun to prepare his military. The regional governors would also be wondering why they were losing contact with Imperial garrisons and planets, and would most likely dispatch several light cruisers or even several Star Destroyers to scan for incoming enemies. These ships would be destroyed quickly, and the regional governors would finally realize that something very bad was happening.
So I don't think he's actually giving Star Wars enough credit this time. As demonstrated in Empire Strikes Back, with the probe droid able to send video telemetry via a tiny, tiny antenna, however many light years to Vader to identify the rebel base on Hoth, their faster than light communications are fantastic. So they'd probably find out about the invasion pretty much immediately. All you need is, anyone on Tatooine being like, "Hey, scary dudes yelling exterminate," and the Empire would be clued in.
A fleet of Star Destroyers would be assembled. This fleet would probably be even larger than the fleet at Endor seen in Return of the Jedi.
Almost definitely true. The fleet at Endor was relatively small. It was only like 50 ships. And the reason for that, as far as I can dig up, is basically that they had to assemble the fleet in secret so that it would actually be a trap. If they started pulling a ton of ships from everywhere to have an overwhelming force, which the 50 ships already were an overwhelming force, basically the rebels would have caught on and not fallen for it. So yeah, it was a pretty minimal force. Much more representative force would probably be the one from Revenge of the Sith during the Battle of Coruscant, which was more like 1,000 Star Destroyer class ships, Venators in that case, plus all their support craft and fighters and all that kind of stuff. So in that case, they'd only be facing about 10,000 to 1 odds in terms of ship to ship.
This is when the true battles would commence. As the Dalek fleets began to get further into Imperial territory, they will meet with growing resistance. On the ground, I believe that the Daleks will truly shine. While I believe that Star Wars blasters are more powerful than most handheld weapons in the Doctor Who universe, I still think that one Dalek will be equal to maybe 10 or even 20 stormtroopers.
Probably overestimating the stormtroopers' capabilities there. Dalek armor, by the time of the Time War, their armor is just insane.
The Dalek shielding is just too powerful for the stormtroopers to kill the Dalek soldiers in just a few shots. They will need to continually fire before the Dalek dies.
They'd probably have to break out anti-tank weaponry. That's pretty much all that would work.
And I know some people will probably disagree with me on this point, and might point out that in the Doctor Who episode Doomsday, the Daleks managed to take hundreds of shots from Cybermen lasers, but please remember that those Daleks were a part of the Cult of Skaro, and they might have had more powerful shielding than regular Daleks.
Okay, so that's actually one of the things that is a pet peeve of mine when it comes to any kind of matchup. He just said, well, they probably have this. No. First off, the Cult of Skaro definitely didn't have special equipment. They were tasked with basically... most Daleks are slaves to logic. The Cult of Skaro is tasked with thinking creatively so they can think up lateral solutions to problems. It's something that they struggled with for a long time, so the Cult was a fix for that, basically. They are not a frontline combat unit. They can hold their own in combat, but that's not what they're there for. So, no, they don't have any special combat capabilities whatsoever. The idea of, well, this is something different, therefore I'm going to guess that it's like this. No, never base an argument on that. That's ridiculous. Don't do that.
Though it pains me to say this, I also believe that walkers will be useless in combating Daleks, as they can only fire in one direction and the Daleks can simply fly behind them and shoot the walkers in their weak spots.
Fair.
In space combat, however, I believe the Galactic Empire has more of a chance. As I stated previously, I believe one Star Destroyer is equal to 3 Dalek ships.
Okay, so it was 1 to 10,000, so now it's only 1 to 3,000 odds? Okay.
The Galactic Empire also has an advantage in TIE fighters, as the Daleks do not use fighters nearly as much as the Galactic Empire does.
They don't use them at all, because they can just get in their suits and fly outside. They do this all the time. He actually showed a clip of them flying around in space and then attacking a station and, blowing out the window and attacking the girl. Yeah, Daleks don't need fighters. They can just do that. And if they turn up the power on their guns, which they're quite capable of doing, they'd be quite capable of shooting down TIE fighters too. And with 2,000 of them per ship and 10 million ships, that's roughly a lot of them to be able to take out any kind of fighters that the Empire could muster.
A single Star Destroyer carries at least 72 TIE fighters and or TIE bombers. This means that while the Daleks would most likely fire their weapons at the Star Destroyers, the TIE fighters would be able to overwhelm their defenses, making it easier for the Star Destroyers to obliterate the Dalek ships.
Yeah, keep in mind that anytime that you have some ability to punch on a certain level, chances are you can defend on a similar level. So, like Star Destroyers, they are designed to deal out the punishment that they can with their turbolasers. They are also designed to resist attacks from other turbolasers. Daleks, same kind of thing. You can blow up Daleks with their own weaponry. Very hard to do so with inferior weaponry. Pretty hard to have the conclusion that weapons that can one-shot or that can take out pocket universes that are weaponized are on the same level as pew-pew guns shooting bolts of plasma. Those are not in the same universe level of power. I don't think that Star Destroyer weaponry would be effective at all against Dalek ships. Capital ship weaponry would work on individual Daleks. They can only handle so much, but the ships can handle a lot more.
Now if the Daleks managed to board a Star Destroyer, I believe the Empire would be at an extreme disadvantage, and I think the Daleks would manage to destroy the vessel from the inside out with ease.
Which they would be able to do plenty easy because they have teleporters, and all they'd need... it's possible they'd be able to just beam right through the shields, but even if they can't, they also have on-demand time travel, so they could just beam in when the shields aren't up. And for that matter, hey, on-demand time travel. They can do things like, oh no, the Empire's a problem. Let me just travel back in time and take out Coruscant 1,000 years ago. Congrats, the Empire never happened. Ta-da! Yeah. As I said in the intro, there's a reason why I have trouble comparing Doctor Who stuff against anything, because the level of power you're talking about is silly. Like, as soon as you get on-demand time travel and being able to just rewrite events like on that kind of scale that easily, it's really hard to fight that.
Once the Daleks are seen to be a formidable opponent, I believe Palpatine would send Vader to find the Dalek Emperor and kill him.
Yeah, because the Emperor is totally undefended, and Vader's lightsaber would be really good against shields. Oh wait, it's basically useless against them.
While the weaponry on the Daleks' command vessel would be considerable, so would Vader's Executor-class Star Destroyer, which would still be larger than the Daleks' capital ship. If the two ships went head-to-head, or if Vader personally boarded the vessel, I think the Galactic Empire would win this particular battle. Even with their Emperor
Again, M1 Abrams versus Mouse Tank scale, who cares?
dead, the Daleks would continue to press onward until they were nearly towards the Galactic Empire's home planet, Coruscant. Now that we are nearly to the end of this video, I must choose a victor. And please keep in mind, everyone, that I love both factions and that I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. That said, I give this victory to the Galactic Empire.
Surprise,
and the Star
surprise.
Wars universe. And I will say that they win 7 times out of 10. I believe that...
So... I was even inflating the numbers for the Empire more than he was. He was saying, oh, probably a bigger fleet than Endor. Oh, okay, so more than 50. Versus 10 million capital ships. Just stick it in a calculator, dude. Check out the odds.
Even with their millions of ships, the Daleks will not be able to overwhelm the millions of races and billions of soldiers fighting them. Their ships are not able to overwhelm the Star Destroyers, as the Galactic Empire has the use of TIE fighters. I also...
Yeah, that... no. Just because you have a lot of something doesn't mean they're effective. Just look at, the pre-World War I days, the Zulu Wars, where you had, 6 English dudes with a couple of machine guns held off how many thousands of Zulu warriors with spears? Yeah, you should learn a lesson from that. Numbers aren't everything. And particularly if your weapons aren't actually effective. It's like, okay, how many ants does it take to take out a hippopotamus? Well, considering they're literally incapable of penetrating the hide of a hippopotamus to actually inflict any damage whatsoever, let me see, if you get a few trillion of them together and shove them down the hippo's throat so that he chokes, then you can kill the hippo with ants. But short of that, no, you can't. I'm sorry. There's certain damage thresholds that simply can't be exceeded. It's like trying to take out a suit of full plate with rain. No, it'll plink, it'll make a bit of noise, and nothing more. It'll get damp and uncomfortable, and that's it.
I believe that Palpatine and Vader would be able to do considerable damage just on their own. Even if the Daleks managed to kill Palpatine, his backup plan would lead the rest of the Galactic Empire's fleet to Jakku, luring the Daleks there as well, where the planet would explode, wiping out the rest of the Daleks' forces.
What? When did Jakku explode? That's where Rey was. Jakku didn't explode. Why would it explode? What is he talking? Is there some Legends or whatever extended universe thing about Jakku being set to blow, so it would take out a bunch of... Also, the Daleks would have to be close enough for that to actually, affect them at all. And what is he talking about? That's so weird. Yeah, if you blow up a planet next to some Dalek ships, I'm sure it'll damage those ships or destroy them outright. But what?
And from watching Doctor Who, we know that a planet exploding does do damage to Dalek ships.
Yeah, if it explodes like that, if you take the entire planet and convert it into a nuke, Christ. Sorry. Yeah, I bet that would do it. I also just don't know what he's talking about here. Please let me know in the comments if there's something about Jakku that was supposed to be weaponized or something. I thought it was just the site of a battle. Whatever. Also, he's assuming that every single Dalek is at that battle, which is probably not reasonable.
I know this probably surprised a lot of people who clicked on this video. The Daleks are geniuses, so they might be able to find a way to defeat the Empire, but I find this unlikely.
Yeah, he conveniently didn't bring up any amount of time travel. You want to take out the Emperor? Just take out, blow up Naboo 1,000 years ago. The Emperor's never born. Ta-da! You want to take out Vader? Do the same thing to Tatooine. Like, as I said, on-demand time travel ups the ante in terms of power so dramatically. And I'm not even talking about like their genetic engineering of specifically targeted viruses, their mutating and enslaving other races to weaponize them. There's all sorts of stuff that they can and have done. Again, from the beginning, the Daleks were set up as this is a group that will be able to threaten the people who are responsible for the concept of linear time, the Time Lords, who also have the ability to travel through time at will. That means that the level of power they need to have available is insane. Like, the Time Lords even technically started it because they sent the Genesis of the Daleks, Fourth Doctor, so Tom Baker, his whole job was go back in time to when the Daleks were created and wipe them out when they were created, or change them in some way that makes them less aggressive, or figure out a fatal flaw. That was his whole job. He didn't really do it the way that they intended him to. He did find out some flaws that were able to fight them, but yeah, they were absolutely going to just retroactively delete an enemy before they ever existed. So yeah, I don't know why he's not bringing up that particular capability that the Daleks have, but it's kind of a huge omission.
That is, of course, just what I believe through my views of both armies and my research. Please let me know what you thought of this matchup and leave ideas for future battles in the comments below. Thank you for watching, everyone. Please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Like this video and share with your friends, and click on the little bell icon to be aware of my future videos.
I'll link
Have
it in
a
the
fantastic day, and may the force of others be with you always.
Okay. Oh, I just thought of another comparison. That's taking the time travel away from Daleks is a bit like saying, okay, we're going to match Darth Vader against Mike Tyson, except that Darth Vader only gets the benefit of modern technology. Oh, okay. So the Force doesn't work, his suit doesn't work, his lightsaber doesn't work, because even the lightsabers that they made, they need an actual tube full of gas feeding the plasma torch. So maybe he'd be able to use it for half a second before it ran out of gas. So what you end up with is Mike Tyson versus burnt corpse. That's kind of a huge thing to shut Darth Vader out of using, is the MacGuffin technology and the Force and all that kind of stuff. You can't do that and have an honest comparison. Oh well. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments. I hope this helps to illustrate why I don't tend to compare Doctor Who against anything. They are the stuff that is in Doctor Who is well and truly completely insane. That's part of the fun, but makes them really hard to compare against literally anything. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Again, I have links to my Ko-fi account and merch store in the description. And until next time, live long and prosper, and may the Force be with you.